Welcome to the world of Just Kicking It, a 3D over-the-shoulder sports game where the player gets a chance to be the ball. As the player, you will assume control of a game ball that suddenly comes to life during a soccer game, and you've only got one thing on your mind: I want off this field. However, there are two soccer teams that have other plans since they are still playing a soccer game and attempting to kick the player into the goal. If the player gets put in the goal, the player loses a life. As the ball, the player will have the standard ability to roll forward, back, left, right, with an additional ability that can be used once every few seconds to boost their speed for a moment. It will primarily be used for avoiding the AI players. If the player does get kicked, however, while airborne, the player will be able to move the ball slightly, helping the player position themselves. However, their speed and control will be decreased for 1 second after landing on the ground again. If the player gets put into the goal, the player will lose a life and then be returned to center field, and the match will continue per soccer play. The player's main objective will be to get to a small zone at the center of the field sideline on the audience side of the field. This is the player's only escape. If the player goes out of bounds anywhere other than at this point, then the ball will be kicked back into the field per soccer rules and the game will continue. The game continues until the player either gets to the objective, exhausts the 5 lives that were given at the start of the game, or the soccer game time of 10 minutes runs out, concluding the game. As with any sporting event, the antagonizing force is the opposing team. However, for this game, both teams become the antagonizing force as they compete for the ball. Each team will consist of 9 players, 3 forwards, 3 midfielders, 2 fullbacks, and 1 goalkeeper. The AIs will stay within their respective position based on soccer rules, so depending on where the player is positioned will determine how many AI players they must contend with at one time. As shown, the forwards will always stay in the front and will be the only ones that will enter the opponent's area. Midfielders will stay with the team midfield area. Fullbacks will always be in the rear assisting the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper never leaves the goal. The players will need to make fast decisions during gameplay. The AI player's speed will become increasingly faster depending on how much distance there is between the AIs and the players, maxing out at twice the speed of the player. The player will need to find ways to gain distance if they want to plan ahead. The player will spend their time avoiding AI players while moving towards the player's objective at the field's halfway point sideline. Since the amount of motion that will always be present around the player, this game will need to be a 3D, third-person, over-the-shoulder style of gameplay. 2D overhead could be used, but I believe that this will make the dodging considerably harder and robs the player of a degree of fun. This will be a first-of-its-kind kind of game, since there is no other game that allows the player to be the ball during a sporting event. However, the gameplay will be similar in nature to that of the Champions 4, which is a basic soccer game that can be found free online. The rules for this game are simple. Get to the objective at the center field sideline and don't get put into the goal. The AIs, however, will continue to follow basic soccer rules while playing, so they will pursue the ball endlessly, kicking it towards their respective goals when they're close enough to the player, attempting to win the soccer match for their team. While this will be a win for them, that means game over for you. The risk for this style of game will be the scripting necessary for AI movement over the field. The player function will be basic, however the AIs will need to follow basic soccer rules during regular play. They will also only be covering the areas that their respective position call for. While the scripting will be basic, there will be a lot of it for the AI control and limitations. While we don't need them to be World Cup level, the basic group of AI players needs to be difficult enough to challenge the average player. With Just Kicking It, I believe that we can add a new element to sports games, bringing a more involved and comical experience that will bring out the gamer in all of us. This is my pitch, and thank you for listening.